10 days or 2 weeks or something like that. The typhoid fever was a very dreaded disease, and it is very often that it is fatal. So it was it is real when people got typhoid fever. There's something like tuberculosis was in those days. That is fatal too in most cases. Most generally, they didn't survive if they ever contacted it. So, 22. And 1923, I was helping my dad cut down firewood. This is something that will last in my mind for a long time, and it isn't like it is now when you got chainsaws and wood splitters and what have you. We split those with wedges and axes and what have you. So boy, that wasn't anything that you can appreciate. Palmer Strummy and I played with little pigs down at Anton Olson. Oh, you know, they're quite real cute when they're small. And by golly, we played with them, monkeyed around with us. We were in that pig pen for the mother pig didn't harm us or anything. We were catching them and sitting holding them, and by gosh, there's several of them that died from being handled. So that was a costly affair for Anton Olson to have Palmer Strummy and I running around the farmyard and getting to the pig pen. That is, in 1923, Anton Olson bought a car called a Mitchell from Paul Christopherson, an uncle of mine in Findlay. Paul Christopherson was married to Tilly Anderson. That would be a sister to my mother. This Mitchell was a real swell car. It was a lot of bottles. As nice a car as you could possibly pick out in those days. It was a 6-cylinder, real well built. So it is real interesting to have a ride in that thing, and it rode like a Cadillac. Irene May was my teacher. She was also from Wimbledon. I don't know what. Just barely made that Irene, what is her name there on Irene May on that first side of that tape. That just about took care of it. I graduated from grade school on June 23rd of 1924. And again I had to help my dad cut down trees for firewood. We burnt wood exclusively in our cook stove and the heater. And when we first started, when I was younger, we would get eastern coal, hard coal, and then we'd had a self-feeder stove, and it heated real good, but we find conditions we were getting so hard up that we couldn't afford to buy coal anymore. My dad went to burning wood. And of course that wasn't too good a deal for Art, because he had to be cutting. Well, there wasn't enough that he had to cut the trees down on Saturdays, so I had to go down in the woods and be on the business end of a 2-man saw for, I suppose 3-4 hours in the forenoon and 3-4 hours in the afternoon. Oh, I sure got sick and tired of it. In 1924, we got our first radio. 1-2 Montgomery Ward. And my dad bought it just prior to Christmas, December of 1924, and all it had was earphones. And boy, that is a special. The radios had been around for a couple of years, but they were getting real nice, getting some real good reception. We went, we got a lot of radio stations locally, but the big station was KDKA at Pittsburgh, And then we had WLW at Cincinnati, Ohio, and WLS at Chicago. And that was, well, of course, there got to be more stations coming on all the time, but I don't remember any of the local stations there the first couple of years. And if there was, why they didn't have power enough to get up into this part of the country. So it was, we had company from early in the morning to late at night. Sometimes they stayed all night because these stations were on 24 hours a day, WLS and KDKA. So the big problem was to gather up money to buy batteries. You see, there was no AC. We didn't have any lights or anything. So when we wore out the batteries, they weren't rechargeable, so we had to buy new ones. And they were quite costly. They had A batteries and B batteries. And I think the A battery lasted, probably 2 weeks, something like that. And the B battery would probably last a month. And gee, if I remember right, they cost about $2 a piece, and it took two B batteries. And then it took an A battery every 2 weeks, and they were about, $1.75 or $2 too. So it was, and then just one tube, but if we have radios like we have now, boy, the batteries wouldn't have lasted 3-4 hours. I was confirmed in the Ringsacker Lutheran Church in 1924. I went to run the school number 3 all the year except the last 6 weeks of my 8th grade. Now transferred to school number 2. Mabel Castett was my teacher there, and she died January 3rd, 1976. The reason I transferred from 3 to 2 is that there was a bad flood, and we couldn't get across the river to get to the school, and I could walk up to from where we were living up to Selmer Dolls, there west of Selmer Dolls, and attend school. If it had been any other year, I could have stayed out of school for 2-3 weeks, but I had to attend school regularly to be able to pass my 8th grade examinations. Then later on that spring, after I graduated from school, the Castetts were wondering with my dad if I couldn't come over and drive a team of horses, not a team of horses, but a set of horses, I suppose. 5 horses on a smoothing drag. And of course I hadn't monkeyed around, so I knew what a smoothing drag was or anything. When I got out behind this drag, we had to make 10 miles in the forenoon and 10 miles in the afternoon. And walking behind this smoothing drag in a loose plowed field, by golly, that got to be work. And lots of it. So I welcomed noon hour when it came, and I also welcomed the evening when it came after I'd made my 10 miles in that, right back of that smoothing drag. Blanche Michaelton was my teacher the first part of the year. And then, of course, Mabel Castett finished it up. But we'll get back to Mabel Castett. But I can remember when we hooked up the 5 horses on that smoothing drag, we had to unhook cart. They didn't want that cart back of the smoothing drag. That is a easy way for the operator to run those 5 horses and the smoothing drag was to have a cart hooked behind the smoothing drag, and of course the horses had to pull it. So the Castett boys, they got wrenches and unhooked the smoothing drag. The cart. So I never thought anything about it. But I finally got far enough ahead with my work with the smoothing drag, so they didn't need me anymore. And by golly, And they hauled me home and paid me off. I guess I got about $1 a day, something like that, for